So what can I say more about this show that I haven't said already? It failed epically. The franchise has been mired with continuity problems, so much so that Sigourney Weaver is hinting at a return. But what led us here? And is Alien Earth the last straw for the fanbase? Let's find out. In 1979, Jimmy Carter gave away the Panama Canal and he was on his way out of the White House. NASA built the Space Shuttle Enterprise and Star Wars gave Hollywood execs more FOMO than Tony Montana glaring at his mountain of coke. Wait, get that shit off there, that's not Star Wars. That's when a script by Dan O'Bannon,
here, eat it,
creator of the goofy yet inventive sci-fi classic Dark Star, was picked up by 20th Century Fox. Thankfully, the studio didn't know what the hell to make of it and decided not to interfere too much. They just wanted to get some of that sweet Star Wars cheddar.
Where's the money, Lebowski?
So they greenlit it. At that time, sci-fi action was all the rage. Like superheroes in the 2010s, so Disney produced The Black Hole, Paramount produced Star Trek, and Universal produced Battlestar Galactica. The Alien group got a newcomer to the industry, director Ridley Scott, of some notable projects like
I need the old Blade Runner.
The script was retooled so much, and O'Bannon was just insufferable to work with.
Here, eat it.
So much so that they cut him out of the process. His original work barely resembled the finished product, although he did receive credit for creating the story in perpetuity. After securing the creature concepts designed by H.R. Geiger, we got one of the greatest films of all time. The gore was raw and unexpected, unbalancing the audience from the iconic chestburster scene to the eventual ejection of the creature into space. It was a horror thriller in which the crew of space truckers find an alien creature that massacres most of them except for one survivor, Ellen Ripley. The second entry took the franchise in a radically different direction, opting for a more militaristic sci-fi action theme, like Vietnam soldiers on a bug hunt. It was directed by James Cameron that to this day is the gold standard for that sort of thing. It inspired films such as Starship Troopers based on the Robert Heinlein book and video games such as Halo.
Me inside your head now.
And that's when it all went to bollocks. Without a director that could stand up to the Hollywood machine and the production hell that followed, Alien Ice Cube wrecked the IP to the point that they had to go 200 years in the future to start over. They somehow resurrected Ripley and introduced the Down syndrome newborn.
Are you retarded?
It was a franchise in free fall, and it lacked any cohesive direction. So what do? You Freddy Krueger versus Jason the shit out of it. Cause those kind of movies have such a good track record of working. I mean, whose ever monster wins, half the audience is gonna be disappointed. In one of the final scenes in Predator 2, director Stephen Hopkins gave us that fateful Easter egg. Yeah, it was a shared universe, before Disney had a chance to Amber Heard Marvel into irrelevancy. Alien and Predator would give it a go. 2 sloppy, forgettable Alien Predator movies later, and we got our wet dreams answered. Ridley Scott would helm the next entry. Yeah, the guy who started it all. I remember that glorious trailer. It seemed like it would be a return to form. The visuals were inspired, giving us a glimpse into futurism that we loved as children. And it brought in some pretty big names like Idris Elba and Charlize Theron. What could go wrong? Well, here's an example. Some of the ideas were so ludicrous that they were laughed out of the film. Namely that Jesus Christ himself was sent by the creators of mankind, you know, the alien bodybuilders, and since we crucified him, they got proper pissed and decided to end mankind. What the literal fuck? So with all that buildup of the black jizz and the alien bodybuilders, the studio had had enough, and in no uncertain terms, said that they were sick of his pretentious bullshit and to bring the aliens back. What a novel idea. A sequel to Prometheus was produced, and spoiler alert, it sucked. That brings us to the present day, and more retconning of the franchise with a gore-porn, member-bearing midquel that took some of the best and worst parts of the franchise and packaged it up for the modern audience. Yeah, I'm talking about Alien Remus. Except for good visuals, some unique and thrilling scenes, it once again failed to capture the essence of the franchise and further divided fans. Finally, in hopes of recapturing the original glory, they decided to bring Alien to streaming with what could only be described as a pretentious pretentious, misguided virtue-signaling abortion that prioritized visual consistency and message over respect for the franchise and cohesive storytelling, breaking lore and its own rules with a jumbled mess of contrivances and poorly written characters. The story makes wildly illogical leaps throughout the show, while dropping Easter eggs, breaking continuity while unleashing an all-out assault on the viewer's intelligence. Alien fans deserve better, and it didn't have to be that way.
Dime, why you do this to me?
Back in 2015, Neill Blomkamp, fresh off the last leg of Chappie, had a what-if story gnawing at the back of his head. Without any prompting, his alien-obsessed mind began developing artwork and a story that undid Alien Ice Cubed and Resurrection. The art showed an older Hicks and Ripley in a mech suit ready to take on the creatures once again. It blew up Instagram and fans were freaking out over it. Fox Studios called him in for a serious sit-down. With just one look, Sigourney was enthralled and ready to take on the role of Ripley once again. The concept was raw and aligned much more closely to the spirit of the original, at least more than this. It picks up 30 years after the events of Aliens, and most importantly, it craps all over the previous releases as well as Prometheus, which was more warmly received than an invitation to a Diddy party. It was a mulligan, a chance at redemption for the studio. It was the OG Ripley, doing some OG shit, and on the warpath to get her sweet revenge. Hicks and Newt were also alive, and well, honestly, that was enough for me. I was hooked. He was beaten up and showed a little acid face, but he was still lethal and ready for round 2 against the monsters that killed a squad of ultimate badasses. Blomkamp's take honored the characters like Peter Jackson honors Token, or how I honor the last beer in my fridge. The story is basically Ripley and Hicks discovering a Weyland-Yutani test facility and all sorts of Third Reich shit going on inside. Blomkamp wanted to pace it somewhere in between the slow burn horror story of Alien and the all-out assault on the senses of Aliens. Sigourney Weaver was all in. It should be a proper send-off for the embattled character if done right. Well, of course, Ridley Scott went all menstrual. He had a franchise to destroy. Blomkamp had captured the zeitgeist of the fan base, but Scott had the power. So in the end, the megalomaniac Don got his way and the project got shelved. It was a zombie, technically alive, but going nowhere. After Alien Covenant finished crapping all over the franchise, Scott would not be getting a sequel to his prequel. So everybody lost because of one man's
Sheer fucking hubris.
and the franchise again was in limbo. But you know, since Hollywood loves failure and refuses to learn any lessons from its disasters, they would try again, shoehorning ideas from Scott's new lore into Romulus after the Disney juggernaut bought the rights, making the Alien Queen the new Disney princess. So Alien Earth was conceived, giving fans just enough nostalgia to be watchable while managing to break both lore and logic to piss off fans big time. That was a nail on the coffin for Alien 5, and it would go the way of other passion projects that died before being realized. Fast forward to October 10th, 2025, and Sigourney Weaver dropped a potential bombshell. After producer Walter Hill shared 50 pages of a story with her, it revealed a possible reunion between her and H.R. Geiger's monsters.
You know, Walter Hill is a very good friend of mine, and he wrote 50 pages of where Ripley would be now, and they are quite extraordinary. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I have had a meeting with Fox, Disney, or whoever it is now. Except for Neill, I've never felt the need. But what Walter has written is so, first of all, seems so true to me. It's a very strong first 50 pages and kind of Alien with a really good script. Scary. Of course, the alien does show up. Inevitable.
This would most likely not be Blomkamp's story, but it might be a step in the right direction. Very little is known at this point, except that we're at the beginning stages of what may revitalize the franchise and give Ripley a proper send-off if done right. I can't imagine that they'll bring back elements of Blomkamp's take, and in an age of DEI and the supposed modern audience, it's more of a gamble than a sure thing, so I'm cautiously cautious with a sprinkle of optimism. Well, let me know if this excites you, or if Disney needs to put Alien back in the old freezerino for a few more years. Anyway, let me know what you think, and as always, keep watching movies.